What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So another weekend in the books, another inbox full of all kinds of Switch 2 news and updates and rumors, and I figured I would compress all that stuff into one topic, and we can get up to speed on what's going around about Nintendo's unannounced system. Also, we are going to be taking a look at an update for that Sony hacking situation, as it appears we have a bit more understanding as to what was taken from Sony, and we're also going to be going over, I think, a pretty cool collaboration between the Pokemon Company and Museum. That is until, of course, disaster struck, because it turns out scalpers have at least another one in them. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. If you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with the PlayStation Portal, as I kind of thought it was just going to be part of PlayStation Direct, their store online that you order through, and it's like one per customer, and gotta have you sign in with your Sony email and stuff. But it turns out they basically set it loose on different retailers and online stores like Amazon, and really, the accessory's been doing better than I think a lot of us thought it would, at least based on the reception online. But technically, Twitter does tend to be wrong a lot. But either way, we can see this was posted up by Genki, who did translate it from a source in Japan, where they say the PlayStation Portal pre-orders have sold out at online retailers in Japan. I mean, it's like across the board with Amazon, Rakuten Books, Bic Camera. Again, the list goes on and on there. But then I noticed on Amazon US, it also sold out. And in fact, the PlayStation Portal was jumping up the Amazon new release sales charts for pre-orders, and even jumped ahead of Mario Brothers Wonder at one point. So maybe the PlayStation Portal is on to something here. Or maybe people bought it thinking it was something else, like it's a dedicated handheld. I don't know if people are necessarily buying in because they think it's a new PlayStation Portable or something like that, but I think for what it is, and at that price point of $200 sitting next to that DualSense Edge, maybe there is use there for more people than we were expecting. I did pick one up, though, at the PlayStation Direct store when it first became available. I figured it'll be interesting to see how it handles remote play, maybe differently than a phone, and of course, we'll do the full teardown. Also, with those Spider-Man 2 copies going out now for review, we are starting to get some screenshots of certain things like the start menu, because I guess that's something that they're able to share. Generally, when you have these games go out to reviewers, they'll tell you, oh, you can let your audience know that you're going to be checking this game out by showing off the start screen, and we now see two different ones for the game. We can see one here with we can see like the symbiote there, and then also we can see Peter and Miles kind of overlooking from a bridge there. And I don't know if the title screen will change depending where you are in the story, or if they have like randomized start screens that'll come up when you turn the game on. I do also want to point out that Insomniac is kind of getting out in front of when the embargo breaks, and I'm sure all kinds of stuff will go out there after that lifts, or maybe even something leaks out early. They say, as we approach launch, Spider-Man 2 PS5 spoilers may start appearing online. We worked hard to craft a story packed with surprises, so tread carefully and be mindful of posting spoilers. We're not that far away. We're less than 3 weeks now. I would like to make it to Spider-Man 2 without having a big reveal spoiled for me, because I do think Insomniac has them kind of placed around the game itself. So exciting, really, to be getting to the release for Spider-Man 2 finally, and I'll be curious to see how the reviews turn out, since we are coming up on that embargo lift, so should be fun. Oh, and do you remember when we had that Kickstarter and reveal for that screen that attached to the Xbox Series S? Well, now it actually looks like it's licensed fully by Xbox. And in fact, here it is on Amazon. It's on sale right now. They marked it down $40 kind of to celebrate the design for Xbox tag now, which basically means that Xbox probably beat it up in their labs and did all kinds of tests with it to verify that, yes, we can get behind this product. And the UPspec Gaming X screen is something I've looked at from time to time. I'm curious about this, and I was wondering if people would be interested in maybe doing a video on it. We can even pull it apart and take a look at the hinges and other aspects to it. But yeah, it's $40 off if you want to make your Xbox Series S somewhat portable. You still have to plug it in, of course, but technically you don't need like a big screen or anything, and it folds closed very nicely for travel. So maybe something to consider there. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Nintendo Switch 2, as we're calling it, or Nintendo's next generation device, the NG Switch, as more and more information continues to pop up online, and I figured we would get some stuff kind of getting out there after Tokyo Game Show ended, and we very well could see other reports pop up, as there is one information dump that just appeared online, and I'm kind of navigating, asking around a bit about this one just to see if it's something that has any kind of weight behind it. But I do want to go over a couple here that are kind of funny. For example, this one made the rounds way more than it should. And maybe it's because it's from, as you can see, Tom Henderson here, who says, we'll see launching on Xbox Series X, S, PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC a heck of a lot in 12 to 18 months. Yeah, I mean, we're kind of expecting the Switch 2 to come out next year, so you would have probably a 6 to 8 month run up of that, and you would have all kinds of companies wanting to announce games for it, try to get out in the first year or so of it. This seems like a pretty straightforward tweet, but again, somehow it really made the rounds, had people making the aha moment online. I don't know, it's to me, it's just pretty standard commentary, and I guess from Tom Henderson, maybe that's what really caught people's attention. But then we had this one that was sent over to me. The leaker says Capcom is preparing Monster Hunter 6 for Nintendo Switch 2. This traces back to Necrolipe over on Famaboards, who said that the next mainline Monster Hunter will be released on Switch NG. Of course, that referencing the Activision Blizzard email that talked about the NG Switch, I guess, kind of being the code name for it. At least that's kind of how they were framing it. Anyway, the next Monster Hunter, we believe, is going to be announced probably like the first half of next year, as there is that Monster Hunter anniversary coming up, the 20th anniversary. And that was something that Capcom talked about at Tokyo Game Show without having any actual reveal for a Monster Hunter game, merchandise, nothing. Just kind of like a see you next year, as in, yeah, we'll announce the follow-up, I assume, to Monster Hunter World. And the idea here being it will also be announced for the NG Nintendo Switch. And I do have questions about that one, because I kind of think we're going to get there, and it's going to be PS5, Xbox Series, and PC with no Switch or Switch 2 logo next to it. Could be because the NG Switch hasn't been announced yet. I mean, if this is in March, I'd like to think Nintendo's at least made some kind of move by then, but if not, that would probably be one of the main reasons. Also, I kind of think Capcom is realizing they can have two different Monster Hunter games, like big-time Monster Hunter games, running alongside of each other. Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter World kind of coexisted pretty well. They were both still selling. I mean, Rise sold a ton of copies, and then they also moved it over to the other systems later on. So I sort of think they're going to do something very similar for the next Switch, where they design one specifically for it, and then it eventually maybe moves to the PlayStation or the Xbox or PC later on. But something to kind of keep an eye on there as we head into next year, how exactly Capcom handles the Monster Hunter situation. Oh, and then we had a bit of pushback on that whole Final Fantasy VII Remake situation on the Switch 2. Remember, there was some info that got out there where apparently Square had ported Final Fantasy VII Remake to Nintendo's new hardware, and they were just kind of showcasing it and all these things. Well, we can see this one posted up. This from Fanboards from, is that Nate that... What is Nate doing here? Okay, Final Fantasy VII Remake is not a current plan. Could it happen eventually? Sure. Is it an active plan at this moment? No. A Switch 2 release exists in the same way an Xbox release does. Square wants to do it, they can and will, but no such plan exists at the present. He's mentioned that before. I guess they just found his quote over on Famaboards. He just talks all kinds of stuff over on Fanboards, doesn't he? But this was, this to me was pretty straightforward, as in, we can do it, but doesn't necessarily mean we can with the licenses and deals that we have in place. My thought for Square, by the way, is that they get to the end of this trilogy for the remake. After that's all said and done, Sony moves on, and Square can maybe take some of these games and move them to other platforms, maybe even in the trilogy format where they have like an Ultimate Edition or something like that. That's at least kind of my thoughts on their path forward with getting these different remakes in that Final Fantasy VII line to other platforms, specifically Xbox and, yeah, the NG Switch. Anyway, the Switch 2 stuff continues to pile on, and it will only be accelerating up until Nintendo actually mention something about this. Really, the next date I would look towards for Nintendo to mention potentially what they're doing next year or for their successor, probably that first week or so of November, as they will be posting sales results, financial information for investors, and they probably will have some sort of conference call. And I have to imagine some investor has to ask them, hey, what's going on next year? Is there another system? And then we'll see if Nintendo gives their typical roundabout answer of we're always working on something, or if they're willing to actually talk a bit more in depth about what their plans are for the next generation device. So I guess we'll see. Next up, let's talk about an update for that Sony hack that had allegedly taken place. And this was from Ransomed VC, who is a group that managed to pull a bunch of information from Sony. According to them, it's like almost 3 gigabytes of compressed information. And it seemed like the stuff they were showing as examples were more on the business side with different spreadsheets and PowerPoints and all of this. Well, we seem to have at least a bit more in-depth look at what is exactly in there. And this we can see posted up over on CS Hub, or the Cyber Security Hub. And they are kind of observing things that are happening between 2 different groups, one being a person called Major Nelson, not Major Nelson from Xbox. They just happen to have a similar call sign here, I guess. And they don't seem to like Ransomed VC as much. They've called them scammers and all these things, but they leaked a sample of the data through a compressed archive. And in this, the stolen data contains a lot of credentials for online systems, Sonar Cube, Creators Cloud, Sony certificates, a device emulator for generating licenses, all right, QA security, and incident response policies. So not much necessarily that would concern people who are just signed onto their PlayStation or even on other Sony accounts. Doesn't appear, at least at this time, to include any kind of customer information. And to be honest, some of the stuff they have taken here might even be outdated. It's very possible. So this would be, of course, good news in the sense that, okay, it's nothing super sensitive or would really affect anyone outside of Sony. And this would be something that Sony, who continues to look into, as they say they're investigating it, would have to get to the bottom of how exactly it happened, which, again, many times ends up being something as basic as we figured out this person's password and login, and now we're into the system when we just start pulling stuff. So that's kind of what I'm figuring happened here. Some social engineering, key logging, etc. Just a very lapse in judgment when it comes to security, whether it's clicking a link on an email or anything like that. So we're going to see. At some point, Sony will probably make a statement, but based on some of the stuff we're gathering here, it doesn't look like it's too much to worry about, but still recommend changing your password. And if you want even more information on this from someone who's a bit more savvy with the cybersecurity side, I recommend checking out Some Ordinary Gamers, as they did make an entire video diving even further into all of this. Next up, let's talk about a pretty fun collaboration between the Pokemon Company and a museum, which we can see some of the trailer here they released announcing this a few weeks ago. And then the event did happen last week, but I mean, you can see Pikachu and they're kind of running through a field with Eevee next to him. And this was to announce the Pokemon Van Gogh Museum collaboration. And in this collaboration, it would basically be to introduce some of the younger audience to the art at the museum and all of this. And they would have some fun promotional pieces, like there's a Pikachu plush, there's a really fun statue, a tote bag, and they also had like this special Pikachu card that you could get when you went there. And again, it seems like a fun idea, right? And then scalpers happened, and the place got absolutely swarmed by older people. I mean, the idea was obviously for kids, and it just got crushed because obviously you can then take these cards and start throwing them up on eBay, which people did, and they are selling at a rapid pace. Here's the Pikachu with gray felt hat promo card, number 085, and it's going for, okay, I've seen them going for 180, 250 some odd dollars. It's madness. This is something they should have expected. I mean, come on. Like, we see this so much with limited edition prints, statues, any kind of event around Pokemon, but then we have this from the Pokemon Company saying, "We apologize to all fans eagerly awaiting our Pokemon Center Van Gogh Museum release today. Due to overwhelming demand, all our products from this collection have sold out. We understand this is disappointing to many who are looking to our official email and social media channels for guidance on how and when to purchase. We're actively working on ways to provide more Pikachu with gray felt hat promo cards for fans shopping at Pokemon Center in the future. Details will be released at a later date. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, it seemed like it could have been a really fun event, and then it just went completely sideways. But I guess on one hand, at least they had to go out and do that. It wasn't just bots buying everything up, but still, the place got absolutely swarmed, and well, all the felt hat Pikachus are up on eBay now. Again, they should have expected this. I mean, I could have told them that, and I observed this with do you remember when McDonald's they were doing the Happy Meals with the Pokemon cards? They were selling out of Happy Meals because people were going around buying all the Happy Meals. Like, they didn't have any Pokemon cards left, and that's just kind of how it is now. Just people who are older, even, like, they know that they can buy this stuff up and then flip it online, and it's kind of how it goes. None of the kids get the items that are clearly designed for the kids. It's just resellers and stuff getting out there and then throwing them up online for hundreds of dollars. So yeah, it doesn't even matter if it's just online or offline, scalpers will find a way to ruin it. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the Meta Quest 3, because I did see this pop up online a lot. People seem very, very interested in this headset, and I can kind of see why, because it does look like the genuine evolution to that Quest 2 with basically everything upgraded across the board. The device is coming out October 10th, so it'll be next week, and we can see a kind of a quick look at the spec sheet here. This provided over on Tom's Guide, with the Meta Quest 3 coming in at $500 for the 128GB model, and then $649 for the 512GB model. Now, pre-orders are open currently. Again, they will release October 10th in stores, so I believe you'll probably be able to find them in places like Best Buy and stuff. The chip itself that's powering it did get a pretty big upgrade to the Snapdragon XR2 Gen 2, and that is a considerable jump from that Quest 2. And that on the CPU, the GPU side, that everything really across the board there. The RAM going from 6GB up to 8GB, still a little shy of the Quest Pro, that having, I believe, 12GB. The display also having a nice bump up to 4K plus infinite display. That's 2064 by 2208 pixels per eye. But the biggest thing I saw, and I thought this was pretty interesting, is the pass-through sight. So you can tap on the side of the Quest 3, and then you can kind of see the room around you. It's full color, and it's a higher resolution, or is more pixels than we had previously with Quest 2, to the point where some people who previewed this were able to read their phone or their digital watch, their smartwatch, which it sounds basic, but that's actually kind of mind-blowing compared to what you would have with the older Quest headset. Now, it still is to the point where people are wondering, okay, what exactly can I do with this? I mean, there are games, sure, but the metaverse still is getting talked about a lot, right? Well, there was a very, very interesting demonstration of this by Lex Friedman with a podcast that he had with Mark Zuckerberg over on Twitter. And the idea here is you can see their avatars look just like them in the digital space. Now, there was a lot that went into this, as in they had to do full scans of their bodies, well, their heads and all this, right? But they had to do full scans for imaging, so they won't look exactly like that because maybe their hair grew over the course of several weeks or something, just as an example. But, I mean, this is the best representation we've seen digitally than ever before. I still think we have to get over the hurdle of basically having these larger boxes on our face. We have to get down to the point where they are legitimately just glasses that we wear around, even just like sunglasses that maybe are a little larger. But it just has to get to a point where it's not as inconvenient to strap this massive box to your face to go to a meeting, for example, there. But I gotta say, that's some pretty big progress. And the Quest 3, I am interested in. I like the Quest 2. The Quest 3 just looks like it's better across the board, minus the battery life coming in roughly 2 to 3 hours. So let me know if you'd be interested maybe in like a video where you check out the Quest 3 and really see just how far the wireless all-in-one headsets have really come. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, are you picking up Spider-Man 2? Yeah, 30% say yes, getting it ASAP. I mean, this is the big Sony game for the year. They really didn't have much from like Sony first-party studios other than for that VR2 headset. And I mean, hey, this is a big one for them to release from Insomniac. 26% say yes, but later when it goes on sale or when it goes to PC, which we expect that maybe in like a year or two. 17% say no, I'm not interested. And then look, 27% don't have a PS5, which, I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of people this holiday who will end up with a PlayStation 5, and Spider-Man 2 is going to be right there alongside of it, and will probably be one of the big sellers this holiday as well. I'm ready for the game. Just got to get out there without some big cameo or appearance from a different character or something being spoiled. So less than 3 weeks, we'll make it. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Leaf, who says, "Are you waiting for official confirmation that the KOTOR remake was canceled? They made the official trailer private, and honestly, it's not looking good." I agree. I did a video on Friday, and mostly because the situation did look pretty dire, and it still kind of does, because no one is just giving a straight answer. Disney is saying, go ask Sony. Sony is saying that the licensed music ran out and they're not upping it, which means go back to Disney. And Sony is deleting like all their tweets and stuff for this. It's the story behind it with Aspire and this thing then moving over to Saber. And now we hear about Embracer having issues. Yeah, at this point, I would assume that this thing's getting shelved. It might even turn into a similar situation to Dead Island 2, where it ends up being kind of dormant for a long time. Maybe it makes a triumphant return next generation or something. But yeah, at this point, I'm not really expecting this game to come out anytime soon, if ever. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. There's all the Switch 2 stuff flying around. Have you noticed that's really been picking up over the last month or two? Makes you wonder if something is coming up soonish. We'll see. And then also, what about the Sony hacking situation? Are you kind of relieved to see that it doesn't seem to be anything customer related at this time? And then, were you someone trying to get one of those Pikachu cards from the museum collaboration, and were you kind of annoyed to see what exactly transpired there after it all went down? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.